What up? What up? What up, YouTube? It's your boy
Hey,
Miles. Welcome to the first podcast. I haven't really solidified a name for the podcast. I'm thinking of CEO Chronicles, and you can leave a comment below if you like that name. But the basis of this podcast is really to just interview 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs, particularly people that have also built brands online and kind of like hear about their trials and tribulations. And I have a special guest here with me today. His name is Josh Nichols, also known as Stocks with Josh. That is his channel. Definitely go check him out, especially with the bull run around the corner, man. Like if you follow his channel, trust me, by the end of the next couple years, you'll probably make you a couple 100,000, a couple mil. Just keep following this channel. But without further ado, my man Josh.
hey, Miles, thank you for having me on. I am just thrilled to see you start this podcast because I felt when we've spoken in the past, just in our general conversations, you've been a really good interviewer. And so, yeah, I'm thrilled to get into it and chop it up with you today. People can check me out on Stocks with Josh. And yeah, we're in the middle. People will watch this over the course of time, but we're in the middle of what would be referred to as a hot crypto bull cycle. Today happens to be a down day. It's an ugly red day. But, if you've been through crypto cycles in the past, you understand that these totally incredible capitulation days come along. I have a really good friend, Miles. I was just with him and Stock Up with Larry Jones a week ago in Chicago. Inevitably, he's a buddy that's not in the market. He actually sells windows, sidings, and doors, but he wants to be doing some trading and making some money. So him and Larry, he got a one-on-one session with us, and we were trying to give him some direction. And here's where we left it. So 2 weeks ago, I said to him, and this was the same advice that Larry was giving him, was put this money in this crypto, put this money in that crypto, but leave 30% of your total cash uninvested. And that bugged him. It was like, oh man, you sure I should just drop this into some SUI or some SAY or some AVAX, Josh?
Yep.
And both Larry and I were, no. We've learned that when you have crypto, you want to leave 30% cash. And the reason why is that we have these profoundly ugly days, which are massive buying opportunities. So, something stays in a tight price range, Miles. Let's say it's around 80 cents and, it's there for 5-6 months. It goes between 75 and 82 cents. And then all of a sudden the market decides to take essentially a dump and it goes down to 40 cents. And then within 4 days, it might recover. There's the opportunity in crypto. So he's very glad that he did, and he was positioned to take advantage. If he hadn't been, then all of his money would have been down, and he would have just been suffering. But when you leave a little cash, Miles, you now have the excitement of participating in the downturn, right? And so, definitely, we're trying to make some money.
Of course.
Me on today.
Of course, Josh, and great to have you. So, piggybacking off of what you were talking about in terms of investing, I kind of just wanted to get to know more about you and your background and how you got started with trading and investing. I know you're, a big 7-figure trader now, but I mean, obviously, it wasn't always like that. So, kind of walk us through your journey and how you got that.
Well, thank you for asking, and I'm gonna share just some highlights that stand out to me. We were just talking about this off camera a moment ago, that I have a unique family background in this way, that my mom and my dad were actually ministers in the hood, you could say. I grew up in Gary, Indiana. Now, I was just telling you about Gary because Gary's not in the news today, but when I was a kid growing up in Gary, it actually was the murder capital of the United States. And so now what's interesting about this is that my mother's parents were millionaires. They were very successful people, and they lived on the beaches of Hawaii in an exclusive, gated community. Their neighbor 3 houses down on the beach was Oprah Winfrey. And then their neighbor to the left of them was the Golden Coin. And the neighbor to the left owned the Golden Coin in Vegas. And the neighbor to the right was a Japanese billionaire. The old Japanese billionaire, when he was in his 80s, he taught me and my brother how to surf on the beach. And we were mostly told to leave him alone, but we made friends with him and he showed us how to surf. And so I had this strange exposure in my childhood of, I would say, on one hand, some extreme poverty, right? And on the other hand, some extreme wealth. And I kind of went back and forth between these two worlds. And so the poverty part produced in me a strong sense of hunger. Like I'm hungry. I want I want something more. When I was a kid, my parents had some humble means as ministers. The kids around me, had Jordans and designer clothes, and I just didn't have anything. So yet somehow on this, I would go and spend the summers in Hawaii, and we were treated like kings. Then I'd go home, and we were treated like paupers. And so out of all of this, produced a pretty hungry young man. And one of my uncles was actually very successful. He was the president of one of the largest hospitals in the U.S. in Erie, Pennsylvania. And he actually went on to be part of a 4-man team that merged Blue Cross Blue Shield. When he got out, when he merged those two companies, they gave him a multi-million-dollar bonus. And around that time, I was in my early 20s. And he would come into town where I lived, and he would say, "Hey, Josh, coming into town, you want to get lunch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, uncle." And we'd sit down. And back then, the way that you learned about stocks was through the newspaper. So there's no cell phones. Really, laptops aren't very popular. You got a desktop at your office. You have the newspaper, and you called. And we would sit down for lunch. He'd have the newspaper. He'd pull it out, right? And he would start talking to me about his plays. He would take me to the back of the newspaper, and there would be all the tickers, really small. And to the right of him would be the amount of money and the percentage that it went up. And he was telling me about, how this or that was performing, and how he was up 100% or 200% in this. And I rode through the .com bubble with him, kind of like vicariously asking him about his plays and him sharing his successes with me. That's where the spark was laid down, because I'll be honest, Miles, the idea of me being a Wall Street investment guy from where I came from was a pretty big leap. Like, it did not seem like it was for me. Nobody had invited me to the table. Nobody around me had said, "Josh, you could do this," right?
Did you want to, though? Is that something that you were interested in, or you wanted
Well,
to
none of this is scripted, so I'm going in hardcore with the truth. My mother was a very beautifully religious woman, and I myself love the Lord, but she spoke over all of her kids, 7 kids. She spoke over all of them that they were going to serve the Lord and be in ministry. And I remember going to visit my grandpa and just understanding the wealth and lifestyle that he had. And my mom would tell me that I was going to be in ministry. And I thought, I don't know, Mom, I might need to go run Grandpa's stores in the future. And so there was this little bit of a torn nature, right? Now, I think that has found its peace over the course of my life, because I do spend a lot of time mentoring young people. I have a lot of adopted sons and adopted daughters, and that's how I've chosen to help people in their life. But the other side of me just began to continue to peek over that wall into that world, that other world of wealth that was interest. And I had to wrestle with whether it was even for me to go over there, whether it was for me to conquer it. Well, eventually, in the course of time, and I would love to tell you that, like everybody else, I got a regular 9-to-5 job, and I tucked away a little bit of investment money and slowly conquered Wall Street. No, that wasn't my experience. That would be very cool. No, actually I got a nice fat inheritance. Eventually, in the course of time, when my beloved grandparents passed away, I got a nice chunk of change one day. And at that time, my friend from church, Larry Jones, Stock Up with Larry Jones, he had been doing some dabbling, and he had a friend, James Hatchett, and James knew options. And I kept asking Larry, what do you know about options, man? I got to crack into this options game. This is where it's at. Because I had at that time been hearing about people making big money. James, I reached out to him, and he said, "Yeah, man, come by the house." And we spent a couple hours, and every once in a while I would ask him some questions. And right off the bat, I started making big plays. I was trading with $500,000 and making $20,000, $40,000 a play was happening, right? And the very
Wait, so when you first started trading, your position sizes was like $500,000?
I would have, yeah, $500,000 at play on
Wow.
plays. Yeah. And I can tell you that that was a big degree of foolishness. I actually, I actually was pretty gifted at it. I think I was naturally gifted. I think I'm naturally gifted at charts. I'm a very visual person, very pattern oriented. And it's not to say that I didn't have to spend a ton of time learning, because I did, but but I put a ton of effort in, but I also was somewhat good at it. So my first year, I went full-time day trading after I'd gotten that inheritance, and I made $120,000 that first year. But I put in an inordinate amount of hours. Like, I want you guys, those people out here, to hear, I was what you call obsessed. When I tell you I was obsessed, I'm talking, I was up at 4 a.m. and I was on my computer until midnight. And I'm talking like pretty much 7 days a week. I was researching, studying, and I got into sort of an unhealthy place. And I had two big losses back to back. So I had my
Okay.
120,000 that I had accumulated over 12 months. And then within a very short amount of time, I lost 60K.
Oh,
And
wow.
at that particular moment, it was just a massive setback, because it wasn't the money, and it wasn't the feeling that I couldn't make more money. It was
Like
the
it kind of did something to you, kind of like mentally and
it
such.
did. It did.
Yep.
And I basically felt like I lost 6 months of my life. And the amount of time that I had put into trading those 6 months was just, it was like demoralizing. And I really lost my momentum. And I took a step back, and my wife had said to me, Joshua, why don't you slow down your trading and start trading more part-time in a more focused effort with less risk? And at that point, I had a business idea that I'd wanted to pursue, and so I actually didn't want to pursue it, Miles. I didn't want to.
Wow.
And but my wife was kind of encouraging me. She said, you wanted to pursue that thing. Why don't you go do it? And to placate her, because really secretly I wanted to be 24/7 obsessed with the market.
Yeah.
I was like a market crackhead. Secretly, I wanted to do that, but I placated her and I said, okay, well, I'll go out and I'll talk to some guys about this business. I really wasn't interested in it. Like, I was very low interest. Well, I went out that day, and I went to go talk to a guy about doing this product for him. And he kind of like said, yes, let's do it full bore. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And so it backfired, because I would say that there was favor on it. And then that business began to kind of grow and thrive. And I put trading a little bit on the back burner. I continued to
Right.
swing trade and continued to research, but I took much lower risks. And that's kind of my journey. After that, Larry and I just kept bouncing trades off each other for the next decade, and I kept deep diving into technicals, and then that just began to build momentum. When the market started getting hotter and hotter, it started pulling me in. But I would say that I did become way more conservative over that 10 year time frame, or even 15-year time frame. I became way more conservative in my plays. But that's kind of how my journey went.
Yeah. So for everybody watching, I want you to understand that if you are trying to get into trading and stuff, like going in with a $500,000 position, like you're gonna need a lot of risk management. Like I remember when I first got into the market and started day trading, I lost so much money, and then and they mess with me. I would revenge trade. I would crank up the leverage even more, and then take even bigger losses, and it was just a downward spiral. Like it was pretty bad. But speaking of, now that we're on the topic of the market, what is like some of your high conviction plays like for 2024?
Well, I've got some high conviction plays that are based off of changes right now in the economy. Let me take a quick step back, Miles, and just say this
Go
last
ahead.
thing. The whole reason why I promote the three phases of investing, which I call learn, test, execute,
Hmm.
the whole reason that I focus on those on my channel is because I didn't have, there was no YouTube. There was no YouTube. There was nobody providing teaching. You had to literally get the info from a book or a friend, and not many people had friends that knew this. So I just want to emphasize that, that if you, on my page, I'm trying to get people to slow down, manage risk, don't revenge trade, use a stop loss. All of these hard learned lessons is what's made me successful today, what's made me a consistent person who's making profits in Wall Street. But I still get moved by the same emotions that everybody gets moved by. And I always like to dispel the myth, because they talk about dumb money and smart money. Dumb money is all of us, and the reason why they call us dumb money is because we're emotional. Yeah. And the reason why they call Wall Street smart money is because they say that they're not emotional. But that's not true, because there's all of these titans of finance that lose. If you go through the newspaper, you're going to constantly find the Sam Bankman-Frieds and the Madoffs and all of the people that gave them millions and billions of dollars, because the whole idea of there being smart money is somewhat of a myth. We're all in the same emotional boat, and we all have to understand that we will be successful when we embrace the standard disciplines. Your stop loss, you're not revenge trading. One of the biggest lessons I learned is position size. We talked about it earlier, that I had $500,000 to work. And we talked about it at the beginning of the video, cash on the sideline. Yep. I can guarantee you that I have more cash on the sideline at all times than anybody's imagining that I do. I've got cash just earning an interest rate. I can deploy large sums. And if I even do that 4 times a year, I've learned that stuff goes on sale and it becomes an easy opportunity, because if something drops 50% in the course of a month and it's way oversold and there's no good reason for it to be there, I can deploy a large chunk of change and get in and out and get all my original capital out and be left with 50K, let's say, in that trade. And I do that. That's one of my biggest strategies, is patience. And I learned that in the season that I'd stepped away from the market. But high conviction plays. Real high conviction plays. So you don't hear a lot of people talking about this, but I'm going to refer to it as popular brands. So in the last 5 years, really from 2020 to 2023, back in 2021, all of these brands that a lot of people wear, like North Face or Lee Jeans, or even Disney. Disney is an American brand. It doesn't even have to be what you wear. It's just American culture, American clothes. A lot of these companies got utterly annihilated. One of them is VFC, and they own like North Face. And a lot of these brands had just Disney. They obviously own Star Wars. They got dragged down into the gutter, and I kept an eye on them because I knew that they're evolving. The way that they've done business is drastically changed. A lot of these are going to have brick and mortar stores that are going to go away. But I don't believe that the brand themselves will die. I think the brands are alive and well, and they're going to find new platforms to be sold. And then they're going to go from having, fat margins to thin margins, back to fat margins. And so I've been betting on these brands, betting on these companies that own assets or part of culture. For instance, Nike's getting their butt beat, right? But I believe that Nike's proven to me that as a brand, it's desirable and it's not going anywhere. It's got a huge customer base. And so these are the types of conviction plays that I am looking at now for the future, because these are the ones, they're not AI. So right now we're in an AI world, and these American brand companies are kind of like almost commodities. They're not commodities, but you get my point. They're staples.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They're staples. And I think that I'm going to be keeping my eye on them. I've been slowly nibbling. And I think I'm going to have a portfolio that I would refer to as sort of strong brands that I believe will come back. It's a little bit of high risk. I mean, beyond that, it's been NVIDIA, it's been Microsoft and Meta. Those have been my 3 biggest current positions going with the trend. But as far as long-term convictions, it's going to be those other plays like Disney and Nike and VFC company. And even Dollar General, which is sort of it became a beat down play. But at the end of the day, there are Do you know that there's more Dollar Generals than there are Walmarts?
I did not even know that. I know you've been
Yeah.
talking about Dollar General and how that's kind of like the recession play in a lot of your videos and stuff like that, and how it's kind of like on the up and up.
Yeah, and it's been. I mean, we got it. A lot of it around 100, 130, and I think, I mean, it got up to 160, and now it's been around 155. So if people had followed me in that, we'd be far away from our entry. And now it's just about analyzing where is it going. I mean, Dollar General could double from here. Some of these brands are gonna, they're beat down, but in the next couple of years, I think that a lot of them are gonna double and triple.
Most definitely. But what about crypto, man? I didn't hear any cryptocurrencies in there.
Well, I want to lay out some thoughts on cryptos, and I'm going to be kind of like the sober-minded guy on crypto real quick.
Open-minded.
Yeah, I'm going to put a big wet blanket on crypto, and then I'll come back later and hype it up. But I want to start with this idea, Miles. So a lot of people don't realize, and because they've not been through a crypto cycle, they weren't heavy investors in a crypto cycle. Crypto keeps pulling in new people, and those people they tend to come. They tend to be the more emotional investor, and they don't realize that it's going to be a temporary. Crypto is not investable assets. There is no buy and hold crypto. The only one that might become a buy and hold position at the moment is Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people would argue that when Bitcoin hit 69,000 at last peak's high and then went down to 15,000, who in their right mind is going to consider that a good buy and hold strategy?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody. That's not a buy and hold asset. If today Apple was, which I think is sitting around like $180, $177, if in 2 years Apple could be down to $20 and it had the opportunity 4 or 5 years after that to go back up to 200, would anybody in the world call that an investable asset? Nobody would. That's a roller coaster. Yeah, the swings are crazy. So my view is that a lot of investors need to understand that there is a longer window in which crypto is largely going down and a shorter window in which it's going up really hard and fast. And people just start coming into crypto and they start believing the narrative that these projects are going to change the world. If they're going to change the world, then why are they going to go from $240 down to $20 or to $10? Well, because this thing is not settled, it's not stable. So in the short window, that's largely, I'm going to call that a year and a half. So there's a year and a half window where the best part of crypto investing exists. Now let's reduce that further. So we got the 4-year window cycle. And in that, we've got a 1.5 year window. And then in that, you get roughly 2 pumps. You get 2 big pumps in that year and a half window where you're going to get the majority of your move. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't catch, crypto called math for a move that comes a little bit later, or you can't, maybe ADA is a sleeper and it breaks out near the end and it goes up 100 to 200%. And if you had been holding it, you might have caught it. You're going to have your anomalies. But the fact is that regarding crypto, it's a 4-year window with only a 1.5 year bull cycle with only 2 pumps in that bull cycle. And here's the news. The first pump's over. The first pump is over. So here's what everybody needs to understand. We're dipping. We've got a moment of analysis, consolidation, and an opportunity to get positioned for that other pump, that one more pump, where we're going to pull 200-300% out of crypto. And when you pull it, this is where I'm telling you, I'm laying out the gem here for you, Mile. I'm laying it out for you. Yep. Bulls make money. Bears make money. Hogs get slaughtered. And I have, besides myself and Larry, I haven't met anybody that wasn't snorting like a hog after the bull cycle, because they held their crypto, they bought on the way down, and a lot of them were up 100-200%. And I've heard a lot of influencers on TikTok, I get a lot of the crypto videos over there, and they will say, I held it too long. I believed in it too long.
Yep.
They were up 200%, and then they got down to the dirty winter where it was pretty much a massive loss. And the only reason why they made any money is they believed in it and they started investing in the winter and they got the run up. So here's the bottom line. We have one more pump. We're in a moment of consolidation. We're in a moment of pullback. We're in a moment of a reorganization. There are cryptos that you missed because they got away from you. So now you could take a bite at them. You buy those, you're going to get one more significant pump. And you say, okay, well, Josh, when do you sell? Man, if you bought in over the next...
Gotta get that exit strategy. Gotta have an exit strategy.
Yeah, if you buy in and your money goes up 100, 200%, sell it and walk away and don't touch crypto again. Take all that money you just made from the 2 pumps. You might have missed the first. So now you're even in a smaller group. Take that money. If you get it up 100, 200%, close it out, walk away, and then you're allowed to take 10% of it for speculative swing trades. That's it. And if you follow the plan that I just laid out, and I'm not your financial advisor, but if someone follows that plan, most won't. Most are going to end up being crypto hogs, and they're going to get slaughtered. And I'm not. I'm going to take the money I made, and I'm going to walk away. And I've learned to do that over decades of being in the market. I'm not unhappy about it. If I miss the top, if I miss an additional 100%, I'm okay with it because I've learned the value of seizing some money. And then I'll even go one step further, Miles. You got to sit there and look at that money you made. And then you got to say, okay, how am I going to integrate that into my life? What does this money mean? What does it mean to me? How is it going to make my lifestyle, my wife, my children? How is it going to change my world in a way that I become a more healthy and more productive and more happy person? Because even after they turn into a crypto hog, they get slaughtered, right? Or they listen to Josh and they take profits when they're up and they walk away. You still have to figure out, how am I going to make this money useful to me? These are big questions.
They are big questions. And I definitely remember Chris Sane made a video a while ago, and he was just talking about always giving your money a purpose. Like have some money go, if you're going to put it in crypto, it goes up 100%, and then you take those gains and maybe pay down your what you call car note or your mortgage or something. Like give your money some sort of purpose. And I definitely agree. I haven't even figured out what I'm going to do with my gains, honestly, but I think step one and what everybody focuses on is pretty much just making the money in general and stuff. But I'm definitely enjoying this nice little dip that we have and getting my bag set. Because like you said, like, you know, I like to keep some cash on the side for days like this when things are down 20%, 30%, stuff like that. And I don't even watch the market all the time. Sometimes, like I like to just set alerts on TradingView and then just leave them. And then I remember mine went off, and then I checked and I said, "Does this say down 30%?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me start adding to this position because I know it's gonna rebound." And that this market is gonna reverse. But speaking of the market, Josh, I know you've been trading for a long time, but you've only been on YouTube, I think, since 2021. So kind of like walk us through like kind of like your YouTube journey and like how like the decision that you made to kind of like put your information out there and start your own personal brand on YouTube.
Well, you know what? That's a great question. And it's a similar answer to how I sort of got looking at finance to begin with. Is I'm telling you, relationships are so key. You know, I was trading and swing trading casually on the sideline. And through my friendship with Larry Jones, him and I would talk and get together for breakfast at Susie's Cafe in Valpo. We would go there for breakfast and we'd talk stocks for hours, and you know, pretty much till they shut it down and told us to leave. You know, when he began to take on his YouTube journey, we were still going to breakfast, and we were talking about plays. A lot of plays that he gave when he was doing very well, they were coming out of our breakfast sessions. And so, you know, I think as a friend, he just said to me one day, "Josh, you know, you should be doing this. You're really good at it. You know, you said you're the best technical guy I know." He said, Larry said, "I watch CNBC night and day." And he said, you're the only one that I get technicals that turn out being correct. And so he encouraged me. And I'm going to tell you that, so we're going to get into the heart of kind of what you do, which is, you know, helping content creators. You know, he encouraged me And I didn't want anything to do with it because I had all the natural fears like, okay, but what am I gonna, I probably need to lose 10 pounds, or I need to, the lighting's not good, or, I
Yeah.
had all these reasons why I didn't want to do it, that are all about vanity. Right. And, but I just made a decision, that I was going to do the uncomfortable thing. And then I also wanted to stretch myself. And I remember, and Larry's really good about making me uncomfortable. And I remember, my wife was a little bit protective of me, and she's like, I'd come back home after, spending time with Larry, and she'd be like, Larry's making you do that, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, and I said, you know what, as long as whatever Larry's asking me to do, if it continues to produce results, even if I'm uncomfortable, I'm going to do that uncomfortable thing. And so the ability to see the path that he had that was showing success. A lot. That's kind of what this podcast is about right now, is we're trying to show people paths to success. I can't get out there and have breakfast with everybody because it's just not the way time works. But I can tell you that I hope that out of this conversation that people see two individuals that are on the screen that are willing to make themselves uncomfortable, to do things that they might not have imagined were for them. They didn't know whether or not they would succeed. It goes back a lot to faith, and it's faith to believe that you can do something and that it's going to go well and not badly. And so yeah, Larry painted a picture, and I kept telling him, okay, well, I bought all the lights, I bought the equipment, the cameras, and I didn't mean anything. And then he said to me, Josh, he says, you're not ever going to do anything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to real soon, one day in like 10 years. And then he's like, well, come over to my house and I'm just going to have you on my show. And we did Technical Tuesdays for like 2 months. Yep. And I was just a guest on his show. And that got me used to doing it. I mean, when I tell you that man, and the joke is no homo, when that man held my hand and brought me into the YouTube space, I got to give him his props, because he did. He believed in me. And, and then of course, in the course of time, the next thing that got me pumped was seeing people make money. And I mean, it dawned on me. I remember saying to my wife one day that I said, I think that on my little page, I think that we're generating, I started doing some numbers of the types of comments that I got about people making money. I said, I think we're generating $1 million worth of gains off this channel every month. And that just really excited me, because all of us want to make a difference in people's lives. Plus, whenever you position yourself to teach, you're forced to learn, because you don't want to be out there saying the wrong thing. And I will say the wrong thing at times. I'm not the master guru of Wall Street. I am a student. But when you press in so that you can help explain things to other people, it makes you learn it so much more. And that's exciting. I truly do enjoy. I do enjoy the technical nature of, like, the mystery of staring at a chart and all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, there's an inverse head and shoulders pattern. There's a confirmation candle. Look at that momentum. And it's just so exciting. And then to be able to bring that to people, that's been a lot of fun. So I hope that answered your question. What's the question again?
It was like kind of your YouTube journey and like how you got started on YouTube. Yeah, you answered it, Larry.
Well, I will say this, as far as the success of the page. Now you've been on YouTube, Miles, I believe, and you kind of might know this space. So you have to have 4,000 view hours before your page gets monetized. And what that means is that you have to have a lot of people watch your videos before YouTube will allow you to get paid for some of the ads that they're going to put on your videos. Now, they're going to put ads on your video and they're going to get paid anyways, but they're not going to let you get any portion of that ad money until you've booked 4,000 hours. Now, I've done some research, and it can take up to 2 years for someone to become monetized on YouTube. And that's if they're a consistent content creator. It can take them up to 2 years to get monetized. I'm going to give what I'd say, I'm going to give the glory to the Lord. I started on YouTube and I was monetized 10 days later.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. It took you 10 days? You
10
went
days.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And so my journey has been a rocket ship, and my entire page was born in 2022. I wish I was on at 2021 when things were hot, but I was on. I started in the middle of an Armageddon when only the diehard investors were out there. And so my page did grow quickly, but it grew quickly in what I'd refer to as a winter environment. So it was like the only rose breaking out of the snow. And so, I'm proud of the fact, Miles, that we're very close to breaking over 200,000. I'm sorry, over 100.
Yep.
Hopefully that's a prophetic slip. Very close to breaking over 100,000 subscribers, which is a big milestone. Yeah, that came in the worst part of the economy, and it's been growing since we've been picking back up.
Yeah, most definitely. And you should definitely start seeing way more explosive growth once like Bitcoin hits 100K and retail starts coming in and starts trying to FOMO in and they start researching and stuff.
Yeah, so let me comment on that. So things are different, and here's why. Because people are broke. So stocks are hitting an all-time high, but money has been getting pulled out of the system because of the rise of the interest rate. And so we're not in the same environment. In 2021, corporations and individuals were flush with cash. The government was printing, the printing machines were, as they say, going brrr.
Yep.
And there was trillions of dollars getting pumped in. People were getting stimulus checks, and they were driving that money into crypto. Now, here we are, where the stock market is at an all-time high, higher than it was in 2021, but there's over $1 trillion of credit card debt amongst the general populace. And so really, this is an environment where they say the rich get rich and the poor get poor. A lot of Americans are not participating in the AI move and the Magnificent Seven move. Some are, but most aren't because their housing, their gas, and their food are through the roof. Their credit cards are maxed out. When the Fed tightens up, it doesn't affect Apple, who's sitting on 160 billion. It doesn't affect Berkshire Hathaway, who's sitting on close to the same amount of money. It doesn't affect Nvidia, but it does affect the mailman, the truck driver, the nurse. Their credit cards are maxed. Their house rent went from $1,800 to $2,800. You can't even recognize those prices at the pump. Is that for two? Is that for 2 gallons? And so a lot of people aren't participating, and it's a huge concern for me because that's my heart is for the people to participate, and it means that you're going to have to get stronger. This is not even though the economy is thriving, people that want to make money right now are going to have to be more disciplined. They're going to have to press in because it's a little bit harder right now to rise to the top. It's a little bit harder.
Yeah, it's going to continue to get harder. People are going to have to free up some of their disposable income or like get a second job, learn some type of skill because I truly believe that investing is really the only way, or learning to invest for yourself is really the only way to amass a fortune and stuff like that. That's why I always like trying to tell my parents like to invest in like Bitcoin and crypto, Ethereum, things like that, as opposed to like just doing the traditional 401k. Because how I see it is if everybody's doing it, then it's probably something that you shouldn't be doing. So if everybody has a 401k and they're kind of relying on that, then you probably should do something else, like get on Coinbase or something. And I understand that, it's kind of hard to like learn the skills like you were talking about. But at the end of the day, we have YouTube now. We don't have to go to the newspaper and look up and look up stocks. We could just type in Bitcoin cycle, spend a day, and you could probably become an expert in crypto in like a month or two if you really put your mind to it. So that's kind of just been my MO, my 2 cents about learning how to invest and stuff like that. I've been pretty much trying to learn the cycles myself and stick with it and whatnot. I knew that once I found out really about crypto, man, I'll never forget. It was 2017 when I was in college, and I had some colleagues that were talking about crypto and Bitcoin and stuff like that. And they were traders, and I dabbled a little bit, lost a little money, and then I kind of just turned around and just walked away. And that is probably one of the single biggest mistakes I wish that I had the hunger, like you were talking about, that hunger back when I was younger in 2017 and learned about the cycle because Bitcoin back then was, I think, what, maybe like $100, $150, but
Yeah.
I turned my back on it, and I didn't come back until I graduated in 2020 after the big run up. I started looking at, I remember seeing it at like $20,000. And
Yeah, so I believe May of 2020 it was 4K, 3,800, I believe. So
exactly.
a couple years previous, it was I think we were below 2K from my recollection. But yeah, it's incredible. Continue on. What was that you were saying?
Yeah, I was just saying that, like, and then from that moment on, I tried to get in, and that's actually how I found Chris Sain's channel in 2020, and I started watching. Then, unfortunately, I wasn't so fortunate to have a profitable first year of trading, and basically lost it all, lots of money. And I told myself, it's okay, whatever. It's just money. It'll come back as long as I learn the cycles. And now I've put myself in a really good position to continue to accumulate, because I've been buying this whole winter, like I told myself every week, just dollar cost average. And then if I have a lump sum and I have a conviction play, start throwing it at different altcoins and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to this bull run. This is probably the first. This is technically my first bull run because
that you have skin in the game. This is your first bull run with real skin in the game.
Exactly. I wasn't just watching YouTube and then buying stuff and with no extra strategy, no anything. I actually finally I have my indicators I use. I use the market cipher indicator, and then I have my exit strategy. So this year, I think I know I'm going to actually make some money as opposed to the previous years. But I had to learn my lessons. I definitely did, and unfortunately, I didn't learn them back in when my friends put me onto them in 2017. But it was better late than never.
Miles, I'm telling you for a fact that you didn't do anything unusual. You did what everybody does getting into the investment game, and everyone has to learn their lessons. And so, I hope that when people hear Miles talk and me talk, they're understanding that we're not lying to you when we tell you that you need to have a take profit strategy. If you don't have a scenario in which you intend to cash out, and if you don't have the ability, and I'm telling you because I know how hard it is, right? I'm going to admit it. I'm an emotional trader. I'd love to tell you that I'm a level-headed, never get moved rock, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not a stoic. No, I'm all heart, man. That's why, guys, heart is the emoji on my channel, right? So I'm all heart. And that means that I need to hold my convictions of keeping my position size limited, using a stop loss, not revenge trading. These are extremely important dynamics. Having a take profit has to be in place. And the biggest thing is being able to sit on cash. I was never able to sit on cash. Here's the way it feels when you have cash. You feel like I'm trying to get my money to work. It's like sitting on cash is maybe like a guy who owns a horse, and his whole hope is that he's going to enter this horse into the Kentucky Derby. It's going to run around the loop. He's going to win, and he's going to make a ton of money. But until he gets that horse moving, then all the horse is doing in the barn is taking craps and having to be fed every day. So it's not doing anything for him in the barn. And so he wants to get it out and run it. But the fact is that you learn that him getting out of the barn and just running around, that's not accomplishing anything. Yeah. He has to be in the Derby. You have to be at the right start point, the right exit point. And so I just think that that's the way to, you got to learn to sit on some cash and not be afraid to not be in any position, because opportunities come along. Think about the 2020 COVID opportunity. I have a quick story to tell. I was at a funeral in Indiana last year, and I was asked to do the eulogy last minute for a friend. I went up and gave the eulogy, and afterwards the pastor came up who had known that individual well and said, "Josh, you did a wonderful job." And we started talking about the church, and I said, "You got a really beautiful church. This entryway is amazing." And he said, "Yeah, we just put that on for like $3 million." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." So I assumed the church was going really well. He said, "Oh no, man, we were broke. We didn't have any money for that." He said, "But I felt led to begin the process. The Lord told me to begin the process to build this out." And And he said, so we started having some meetings and telling people what our vision was. We all of a sudden somebody gave a donation of $500,000 day one. And we started to try to figure out who that guy was. We went through and we realized that he had only been to the church twice. And he said, so I called him up and I asked him, hey man, why'd you give us $500,000? And the guy worked at the steel mill in Indiana, and he had been a career guy in the steel mill, and he had about $2 million in his 401k. And one day he started hearing about some of the COVID rumors, and he made a very bold, and one day he was driving to work in his truck, and he said that he heard the Lord tell him to call his broker and tell him cash out of everything, right? And this was before things fell apart in 2020. Mm-hmm. And so he called the guy up and he said, I want to sell everything. And that's an unusual request. Most brokers will try to, most money managers will try to talk you out of it. They're like, we're fine. And, time in the market beats timing the market. And the guy's like, I don't care. Take it all out. So he took it all out. And then we had that massive V-shaped move, right? And it just went down. Now, you would think if this guy was just operating in his natural thinking, he would have thought, man, I just saved my entire inheritance. There's no way I'm going back in the market. Well, he was driving along. This guy's not super spiritual or religious. And so, but he was driving to work one day. And again, this was after the chaos, everything had fallen. I think it was sometime in March, and it had come massively down. And he said that he heard the Lord say to him, like, he didn't even know if it was the Lord, but he said he heard this voice say, go all in. So he turned around and he called his broker. He said, I want you to buy all back in, buy it all back in right now. And he literally sold about a month before the capitulation and bought about a week after the bottom. And he turned around in that first quarter of the year. He pretty much doubled his $2 million to $4 million.
Oh
and
God.
he's not a wizard of investment. He's just a guy that works at the steel mill. And then because of that, because he had never heard these voices before, he kind of thought, I don't know, something's up. I need to go to church. So then he went to church. And he's like, I'm going to get closer to the Lord because I feel like the Lord just saved my retirement. And so he went to church, and one of the first messages that he heard was the pastor say that he was going to build out this area of the church so they could have more community center. And he said that the same voice that had told him to sell and buy, that same voice said, I want you to give a big donation. So he wrote a check on the spot for $500,000. I mentioned all of that to talk about this. Okay, two things. One, it's an interesting story, and it affected a lot of people. It affected my friend and the funeral that we were there for today. If all of that kind of played together, if you learn the lessons that I've learned, to have cash sitting on the sidelines. Now, we all can't expect that some voice is going to come to us in the middle of the night and tell us what to do with our stock investment portfolio. And someone might say, Josh, are you hearing voices? No, I haven't gotten any great stock tips from above that I'm noticing or aware of. But what I have learned is that if you have cash, large amounts of cash, and large amounts of cash could be anything for anybody. A large amount of cash should be $1,000 sitting in your trade account if you're, if that's what you can afford. But if you have cash and you are patient and you wait for the market to show you something like Iran attacks Israel or, something like that on a global level, and the market just decides to dump, it opens up opportunities. So cash and patience equal wealth.
Well, it's definitely. That's an amazing story. Like that when as you were telling it, I was thinking to myself, I didn't think you were going to go that direction. I thought you were going to say he sold at the top and then he missed the run up, but he actually caught it.
He did.
That's crazy.
And that dude this is not a spiritual guy. He wasn't a guy that had even been attending the church. The whole thing, and the pastor was telling me this story, and he's like, this is literally what got us started on this beautiful build out, was this, random $500,000 donation. And then that sparked all of the members' generosity, and they got what they needed to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. It's amazing. So Josh, I got a couple more questions for you, and then we can wrap it up. But in terms of like your personal brand, when you first got onto the YouTube scene, Like, what? How did you go about cultivating that brand? Like, what did you want that to be when you first got on the scene, and how did you go about
Um, I remember that I used a picture in my thumbnail where I had big smile on my face, and I had a couple pictures on my early thumbnails with big goofy smiles on my face. And I
it? Yeah,
remember Larry made a joke with me about you know, about it. Nothing too serious, but he said, "Oh, it's a pretty big smile." And I think that no matter what I'm doing in this space, my goal is first and foremost, it's just to be positive. I'm not going to be on my page to beat up anybody. I mean, I have opinions about things. I've got opinions about popular culture. I've got opinions about politics. But I would say that the priority of mine is going to be to try to remain positive with the community that is being built, the people that are gathering together. There's a lot of, I have some communities, on Discord, and I even have a community on the Mumu app. We've got thousands of people, and I've developed a community over there. And one thing that marks all of these communities is very positive. These aren't places where people are, cursing, degrading. There's, no trolling. We have a zero policy for any type of environment. This is a place where people who are new to investing, they need to be spoken to patiently, lovingly, respectfully. There are people out there who, like I said, they're a nurse and they're trying to make their first trade. And they don't need anybody in the comments saying that's a stupid question. So as far as branding goes, I think that has been a big important part of mine. I use the heart as an emoji in the comment section for two reasons. One, because it expresses, love and community. And two, because I believe it takes courage. The heart represents courage. People have to have courage to do this. Miles,
yeah,
for you to have suffered a loss in the last crypto cycle and to have come back and put real hard-earned money to work took courage. And it's going to take people courage for them to be successful on Wall Street. And so I try to remind them of that. And so I think those are the brand themes of the page: positivity and courage. Those are the two branding themes that I've had. And then of course after that, I got to tell a quick story about Stockmo. I remember I was still running my company half part-time. I have a company that serves products in Northwest Indiana, Chicago, Indiana, and California. And I was still running it, really running it full-time while I was starting my page. And I met Stockmo at a trade show in Florida. Let me turn off I'm noticing I've got something making beeps here. And I really only had like 20,000 subscribers at the time. And I was chatting with him and I said, hey man, any advice? And he's a tall dude. If you don't know, he's like 6'3", 6'4", maybe more. And he leaned in on me and he said, I think you'll be good at this. He said, but you need to basically, what is it? It's kind of a phrase. It's like, shit or get off the pot, I think is what he said.
okay.
And I was a little bit stunned and I was
I
like,
don't even know what that means.
well, it means that he meant to tell me that he said, you got to do this full time. He said, you have what it takes.
Oh, okay.
You've got to do this full time and you're doing it part time. And you need to basically be more resolved to going forward full time. I literally went back and I called my son, who has worked for me and been a big part of my company, and I said, "You've got the reins." I said, "I'm done with this company for now." I said, "You're 100% in charge," and I didn't even think he had the ability to manage it. Like part of me thought, well, if the business suffers, then it is what it is. I'm going to continue in this journey of YouTube and just get more back to my day trading with moderation. But he thrived. The business thrived. He took over. He's run it now for the last 2 years, and I have not had to touch it at all. And but those were big moves, to have the faith to let something go that was your primary focus for years and years and years, and to do something new. So various YouTubers along the way, Chris Sane and Keenan Grace have actually been great encouragers. I met Chris Sane for the first time in California. We did an event in LA, and he was very encouraging. He kind of came over. He said, "Josh, you're the real deal, man. You're the real deal. You know your stuff. He said, when the market goes on fire, he said, you're going to blow up. And, I've been just blessed to get encouragement from some guys who are out there killing it. Keenan Grace, he's been great. He's been the guy that you turn to when you want some questions answered. I've called him up and said, dude, I want to know exactly how you're doing this in your Discord. And him and his wife just walked me through it on the phone for an hour, completely helpful. So I'm going to say this is, I don't know if this answers your question, but part of the journey, if people are going to get into this, is you need to make friends. You need to make friends. You need to go to the trade shows where people who are doing what you want to do, they're doing it. Most people want to help. You get to these trade shows and you just tell them, this is my vision. I want to do what you're doing. Could you give me some help? Most of the people are like, I'll help you. Let's sit down, have coffee on the spot. And that's all I've found is favor in my journey. So make friends.
Yeah, most definitely. So I went to Howard University. I graduated there in 2020, and like that was a place where just so much Black excellence. And my sister goes there now, and one thing I told her, I said, Amani, when you graduate from Howard, what you need to do is you need to leave with a network. If you go to Howard and you leave with Howard and you have no network, you wasted your time. Because I truly believe that part of the reason why Howard is so prestigious is because of the people and the network that people come
Absolutely.
out of Howard
100%.
with. It's not necessarily, I could tell you straight up, I studied finance. There's nothing that they taught me over at Howard University finance that is just so revolutionary that, changed my life. Like, no, but the people that I met over there, so for like one of my colleagues right now, he lives in the same building as me. Like, I just talked to so many people that have helped me along my journey at Howard. That I still talk to this day. Networking is key, and I kind of carried that into my professional and my business life, and just trying to network with different people, like networking with you, Keenan. Hopefully I can get Larry Jones on the podcast one of these days. One person that I was supposed to work with and help them with their shorts and stuff like that, me and him, we didn't end up working out because he didn't have the budget and whatnot. And I went back to him and I said, hey man, like I see you're in New York and I'm starting a podcast. Would you be down to jump on a podcast? And he was like, hell yeah. So I'm about to go to New York on May 4th to go shoot a podcast with him, even though like me and him never really did any work together. But that's just because like I really do value networking with just individuals and stuff like that. So that episode will probably come out next month around like, May 10th-ish after we shoot it. So
I think I'm excited. I look forward to checking that out. I think, Miles, that you're a natural communicator and make your guests feel very comfortable and draw out interesting and unique content from them. And I'm sure that you're going to be successful. I'm excited to personally watch the interviews and the shows you do. And I'll leave you with this. I think that we all need to have bigger asks. Okay. And I don't care who you are or how successful you are. If you don't have an ask that terrifies you, okay, if you don't have a big ask, then you are not stretching yourself. So, we need to turn to people that are further down the road. I'll give you a good example. Miles Goldman. Do you know him?
No.
Myron Goldman.
Oh, wait. Oh,
I got his name mixed up there. Myron Goldman. He's on YouTube, right? And he was a speaker at an event I went to, and he said he was talking about selling his time, and he sells a day with Myron for $400,000. And he was sharing an hour of my time I sell for $40,000, and a day I sell for $400,000. And when he was breaking down his time, and Myron is brilliant. Like, if you find him on YouTube, watch everything he's ever produced. He's a brilliant mind. He said when he got to the 400,000 for a day, the 4,000 people in the room chuckled and laughed. I laughed. I was like, what? You selling your time for 400,000? And then he said, okay, he said, all right, well, then I'm going to ask my inner circle to stand up. And about 15 people in that room stood up. All 15 of those people had paid him almost $500,000 for a day. And I was very curious about this. So afterwards, I went and approached one of the women that was not too far from me. And I wanted to verify it. I wanted to look her dead in the eyes and say, are you his cousin? did he roll his family up in here? Is he trying to fool us? And she's like, no. She's like, I had a business that did provided consulting to the U.S. government. She was about 60, and she had made $32 million. She told me, she said, my company made $32 million. He said, and I'm going into a new phase of my life, and I want to do this type of business. And I felt that Myron was the coach I needed. So I was happy to position myself and drop him that money. Now, the reason why I bring this up is this, right? And then I went over to Myron, and I'm like, I pretty much grabbed him by the jacket, and I'm like, I'm getting some free time right now.
Right.
And, he was very gracious. He's like, hey, dude, just follow me back, here to where I'm at, and we'll talk. And I actually spent about an hour and a half with him and his people. And of course, when Larry was over there too, and when we left, I was like, man, I just robbed Myron $60K. I just robbed Myron $60K. But why do I bring it up? You've got to have a big ask. You've got to have big ask. This guy, he valued what was inside of him. And that woman was thrilled. She said that he is the coach that she needed. And so you've got to expand your vision and expand your ask. And for yourself, Myron had to get to a place where he positioned himself correctly for the level of success that he was capable of. And he did. And I'm telling you, this woman made me believe that I needed a day with Myron. So we need to have bigger dreams and bigger asks in our world, and be stretched. If you're not uncomfortable, and if you're not afraid to pursue one of your dreams right now, then you're thinking too small, and you gotta bring it up a little bit.
Most definitely. Yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Alex Ramosi and who that is.
Yeah.
Oh, you are? Yeah. One thing that he said that's always stuck with me, he said, if you go on a sales call and you say the price and somebody doesn't gasp, then you just didn't go high enough. You always got to raise the bar higher than you think. But yeah. But speaking of big asks, like, are you working on, before we close out, you want to let people know about any big projects that you're working on? I know you put together a course for a while.
Yeah, I am diligently working on a course, and like anything in life, I'm going in very detailed, comprehensive. I mean, I don't want to sound boastful, but I've done a lot of research. I've watched other courses, and I honestly believe each and every one of these classes is unique. It is not just showing people what I know, but I'm taking what people need to know about every indicator, and I'm telling them not just what it does, because it doesn't matter if you know what the RSI does. Some people like, I don't even know what it does, Josh. That would be great. No, I'm telling them, here's what it does, but here's experience on how to make money with it. Here's how to interpret it. Here's the rule of thumb. When this or that happens, this is when you enter or exit. And I found that bit of information missing from almost all the content I absorbed. So I can tell you that people might have been hearing me say I'm making my class. They're going to wait. You might wait longer than you think, but when it's out, when I tell you that it's comprehensive, it's comprehensive. It means it's going to cover. If people go through that, it'll be a great foundation for them to be an investor and a trader.
Most definitely look forward to that course coming out, man. And congratulations again for almost hitting 100K. That should be coming in pretty soon, and you can join the big dogs and stock squad with 100K subs. But thank you again, Josh, for taking the time for speaking with me today, especially and being my very first guest on the podcast. It definitely means a lot. And I can't wait to share this video with you and continue to, share my message with the world, man.
Thank you for having me. I think you're going to be very successful in your interviewing and your podcast. And I look forward to each and every episode you produce.
Most definitely. Thank you. All right, YouTube, that's a wrap. Follow Josh below. I'm going to leave all of his information. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you all on the next episode.
Peace.